She smirked and refused to shake his hand, not realizing the man she just insulted was a billionaire CEO. But by the next morning, her $2.4 billion empire was gone. This is the story of how one act of arrogance destroyed everything and taught the world a lesson in respect. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our special guest, CEO of Handshake Global, Mr. Marcus Cole. The grand ballroom of the Silvergate Investment Summit erupted into thunderous applause. Crystal chandeliers shimmered, glasses clinked, and every powerful investor in the room turned to see the man walking confidently toward the stage. Marcus Cole, a name that had become a symbol of brilliance, resilience, and impossible success. The first black CEO to lead one of the top 5 global tech corporations. A man who had turned a small software startup into a multi-billion-dollar empire that now powered half the Fortune 500. He moved with calm assurance, not arrogance, not pride, just the quiet strength of a man who knew what he was worth. His tailored navy suit hugged his tall frame perfectly, and his calm smile radiated quiet intelligence. The announcer's voice boomed again. Handshake's latest merger is projected to change the face of modern logistics forever. A true visionary of our time, Mr. Marcus Cole. The applause grew louder. Cameras flashed. Reporters leaned forward eagerly. Marcus gave a humble nod, took the microphone, and began his short speech, one filled not with flashy numbers, but with words that inspired. Success, he said, isn't about what we build. It's about who we build it with. The crowd admired him. Some even whispered, he's the future of business. But not everyone in that room shared the same warmth. After the speech ended, investors rushed forward to shake his hand, each hoping to make an impression. Smiles, congratulations, business cards, the usual chaos of ambition. Then came Victoria Lane, managing partner of Lane Capital, one of the most influential investment firms in New York. Known for her elegance, power, and ice-cold professionalism. Her golden hair fell perfectly to her shoulders, her diamond bracelet sparkled under the chandelier light, and her lips curved into a sharp, practiced smile. As she stepped forward, photographers aimed their lenses, a handshake between two titans. It would have been a headline image, a moment of unity between two industry giants. But then something changed. Her expression faltered. Her arm, halfway extended, froze. Her blue eyes glanced at Marcus's hand, then at his skin. A pause, a hesitation, and in that pause, the entire room seemed to fall silent. The photographer's shutter slowed. The laughter dimmed. The air grew heavy with discomfort. Victoria's smile tightened as she pulled her hand back slightly. She muttered under her breath, but microphones caught it clearly. Let's keep this professional. I don't do handshakes. It was quiet, yet deafening. A few gasps escaped from the crowd. A couple of guests exchanged uneasy looks. Others stared, unsure what they had just witnessed. Marcus paused. For a second, just a flicker of disappointment crossed his face. But then he smiled. Calm, graceful, composed. Of course, he said softly. I understand. He didn't lash out. He didn't make a scene. He simply nodded and walked on, leaving Victoria standing there, frozen in her own arrogance. But behind his calm eyes, a storm had begun to form. He had faced prejudice before, in boardrooms, in negotiations, even from investors who doubted him simply for how he looked. But this moment was different, because this time, the whole world was watching. And soon, that one silent refusal, that one unshaken hand, would shake the entire financial world to its core. By morning, the video had spread like wildfire. The clip, just 9 seconds long, had exploded across every social media platform. Investor refuses to shake hands with Black CEO. That was the headline plastered on every news site, every financial blog, every trending feed. Comment sections were on fire. Some called it a misunderstanding. Others called it what it clearly was, blatant disrespect. Influencers, journalists, and even other CEOs reposted the clip, expressing outrage, disappointment, and disbelief. The hashtags #respect in business and #Marcus Cole trended worldwide. Victoria Lane's elegant smile, once her signature, had become a symbol of arrogance. In less than 24 hours, her polished public image began to crumble. And yet, while the world argued online, Marcus Cole stayed silent. No press statements, no tweets, no interviews. He didn't need to defend himself, because the truth and the internet were already doing that for him. Still, inside the glass towers of Avantech Global, something deeper was happening. Marcus wasn't thinking about revenge. He was thinking about principle. Late that night, the lights in his top-floor office still burned. The rest of the building was silent, just the faint hum of servers and the city lights shimmering below. Inside the sleek, modern conference room sat Marcus, his chief financial officer, and two company lawyers. Stacks of documents, financial charts, and digital contracts covered the table. The CFO, a sharp, gray-haired man named Ethan, adjusted his glasses and cleared his throat. "Sir," he began carefully, "I understand your frustration, but this is going to be big." Marcus didn't look up. He kept typing, his face calm and unreadable. "Ethan," he said quietly, "tell me exactly how much of our capital is tied to Lane." Ethan hesitated, glancing at the lawyers before answering. "Roughly $2.4 billion, sir, across hedge funds, property portfolios, and their green energy division. If we pull out—" He stopped, then added, "they'll collapse overnight." For a long moment, no one spoke. The air of the room grew heavy with the weight of the decision hanging between them. Finally, Marcus leaned back in his chair. His eyes, sharp and steady, stared out over the glittering skyline of the city that had once doubted him. He thought about the years he'd spent proving himself, the rooms where he wasn't invited, the deals that slipped away because of whispers and prejudice. He had never wanted revenge, just respect. But now, maybe this was about something more. He turned back toward the table and said softly, "Then let's make it overnight." The room went still. Ethan blinked, almost not believing what he'd heard. "Sir, are you sure? That would—" Marcus raised a hand gently, stopping him. "I'm very sure. They showed the world what they stand for. Now, we'll show the world what we stand for." He stood, buttoned his suit jacket, and walked toward the window. Below him, the city pulsed with energy, unaware that by sunrise, one of its oldest empires would be crumbling. At 2:47 a.m., while the city of New York slept under a quiet blanket of fog, something massive was already in motion. Inside the digital veins of the global banking network, a series of encrypted financial transfers began, silent, swift, and unstoppable. Account after account, fund after fund, billions of dollars, $2.4 billion in total, quietly began moving out of Lane Capital's holdings. No alerts, no alarms, just a cold, calculated exodus of wealth. Perfectly legal, perfectly timed. Avantech's finance team executed each move with surgical precision. Every document had been prepared in advance, every clause reviewed by lawyers to the last comma. The plan was simple: pull everything, leave nothing. By the time dawn painted the Manhattan skyline in shades of golden gray, the deed was done. Lane Capital's books were empty. No warning, no courtesy call, no explanation. When Victoria Lane stepped out of her Blacktown car that morning, she was her usual self, composed, confident, and impatient. Her heels clicked sharply against the marble lobby floor as her assistant rushed to greet her with a cup of coffee. But something felt off. The air was tense. Phones were ringing nonstop. Employees were whispering in corners. She could feel the panic before she even reached her glass-walled office. "Victoria," her assistant gasped. Following her in, "You need to see this." Victoria placed her bag down and frowned. "What now?" Another headline. The assistant hesitated. Her face was pale. "It's not the news. It's the accounts." "What about them?" "They're gone." Victoria's sharp blue eyes narrowed. "Gone? What do you mean gone?" The assistant swallowed. Avantech withdrew all funds overnight. Every single cent. And it's not just them. Several of their partner firms followed. The entire tech sector is pulling out because of the video. For the first time, Victoria's polished confidence cracked. Her heart skipped. She moved quickly toward her computer, logging into the system, But the numbers on the screen told the story. Billions. Gone. Just like that. Give me Marcus Cole on the phone. Now, she snapped. But it was too late. Marcus wasn't taking calls. No one from Avantech was. By 10 a.m., panic had spread through the company like wildfire. Investors were calling nonstop, demanding answers. Analysts were dumping stocks to minimize losses. Lane Capital's value plummeted 43% before lunchtime. The once proud firm, known for its stability and arrogance, was now on every news channel for all the wrong reasons. Lane Capital faces massive client exodus. CEO Victoria Lane silent amid $2.4 billion withdrawal. Arrogance meets consequence. By noon, several major clients had frozen contracts. Others quietly ended partnerships altogether. By sunset, the firm was in freefall, and the same cameras that had once captured Victoria's smug refusal to shake a hand were now capturing her downfall. The footage of her stepping into a waiting car, eyes down, face pale, went viral. The woman who once refused a handshake was now grasping desperately for one. Anyone that might save her collapsing empire. But none came. Because Marcus Cole didn't need to humiliate her. He simply let her own arrogance do it for him. And by nightfall, the empire that once looked untouchable was gone. The following afternoon, the world finally heard from the man at the center of the storm. It was just past noon when Marcus Cole stepped onto the stage of Avantech Global's headquarters in Manhattan. Cameras flashed like lightning. Every major news network was broadcasting live. Social media feeds exploded with anticipation. For 24 hours, Marcus had remained silent, dignified, calm, and unreadable, while the world demanded his voice. Now, he was ready to speak. He didn't arrive with a security entourage or expensive theatrics. He walked in alone, wearing a simple gray suit and a steady expression that carried quiet authority. He adjusted the microphone slightly, looked out over the sea of reporters, and began. When I built Avantech, Marcus said, his voice clear and even, I built it on partnership, on the belief that respect is the real currency of business. The room fell still. You could hear the faint click of a camera shutter, the quiet rustle of notepads. He continued, yesterday I was reminded that some people still think wealth can buy dignity. It cannot. Those words hit like thunder, calm, yet unshakably firm. No bitterness, no rage, just truth. Lane Capital declares bankruptcy. $2.4 billion gone. Overnight collapse shocks Wall Street. Victoria Lane steps down, location unknown. The empire had crumbled. 2 decades of dominance, gone in less than a month. More than 400 employees were suddenly without jobs. Their gleaming Manhattan office, once a symbol of wealth and status, now stood eerily quiet. Empty desks, silent phones, and echoing hallways replaced the sound of ringing success. And Victoria Lane, once hailed as the Queen of Wall Street, had disappeared from public life. Her name, once synonymous with power, now carried the bitter taste of disgrace. But Marcus Cole? He wasn't celebrating. There were no press releases boasting victory, no interviews claiming revenge. Because Marcus had never wanted revenge, he wanted change. While the media continued dissecting Lane Capital's fall, Marcus was already moving forward, not toward more wealth, but toward something deeper. 3 weeks after the collapse, he stood before a sleek, newly opened building in downtown Atlanta. The glass sign above the door read, the Avantech Leadership Academy. It wasn't another corporate office. It was a mentorship hub, a place designed to support and fund underrepresented entrepreneurs, giving those who had been overlooked the same chance Marcus once fought for. As guests, journalists, and young innovators gathered inside, Marcus stepped onto the stage. The same calm presence, the same humble confidence. But this time, there was no scandal, no controversy, only purpose. He looked over the crowd, smiled, and began to speak. Some people chase money, he said quietly. I chase legacy. Because money can vanish overnight, but respect, integrity, and equality, those are priceless. His words echoed across the hall, and later, across the world. The audience erupted in applause, not just because of his success, but because of what he represented: dignity with power, humility with strength, and success without ego. Within months, the Avantech Leadership Academy became a movement. Dozens of startups launched under its mentorship. Scholarships were awarded. Partnerships were built with universities and community organizations. And in an incredible twist of irony, while Lane Capital had vanished, Avantech's market value doubled once again. Investors saw not just a company, but a vision. A new era of leadership defined by empathy and equality. Marcus's influence stretched far beyond boardrooms. He became a voice for fairness in business, a living reminder that power means nothing without respect. And those same hands Victoria Lane once refused to shake were now shaping the future of an entire generation. Moral of the story: never judge someone by their skin, their background, or their silence. Because the person you look down on today might be the one holding your future tomorrow. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because respect costs nothing, but it can change everything.